Okay, I'm just killing some time this morning. I was watching a video on YouTube. It looks like it was just recently put out there. I'm still trying to wake up this morning, but I was watching this video right here. It says groundbreaking DMT research could change everything. Okay. I didn't listen too much. I think I've only listened to maybe, I don't know, maybe 7 minutes of this video. But I think, see, I've studied the brain for about 10 years. I've not read anything as far as like reading what. I don't read anything. I don't study anything. I don't steal any information from anybody. But what I do is I observe. I suppose the place I do get information from is the Bible and God. That's where I get my information from. But that's kind of over these guys' heads. Well, let me explain it since they don't understand. Let me explain it in a way that they can understand how this works. See, what they're doing, or a lot of people doing, people are taking drugs like DMT, and some of them are having like spiritual experiences. So the drug puts them in a different sensory realm, a different state of consciousness, a different sensory realm. But when you get born again, you get a sensor. Now, why is that important? Why is it important that when you get born again, that you get a sensor? Why would God do that? Because everything that a man does, and no one taught me this other than God. Everything that a man does, everything we've built is a sensor. Like, for example, this right here, this is a sensor. I got trifocals. I can see in 3 different areas. Because my sensors, my eyes, I got old. So I needed a sensor, and I got 3 different lenses in these to see. So everything that we build is a sensor, from a microscope to a telescope. We didn't know that there were galaxies out there. We thought those were stars. So we build a sensor, and we keep building a better sensor. Next thing we know, well, those aren't stars out there. Those are galaxies with 200 billion stars. So that's not a star. That's a galaxy with 200 billion stars. And we figured this out because we built a thing called a sensor. So what these guys are doing, a lot of people's doing with this DMT stuff, is that when you get everything, even the Hadron Collider is a big sensor. Everything that we're doing, we're trying to sense what we can't sense. We're always stretching the boundaries and the limits of being able to sense things. So when you get born again, you get a sensor. Jesus actually says in the Bible, he says, let the dead bury the dead. Now Jesus isn't stupid. Jesus is someone that knew that stars could fall out of the sky 2,000 years before Einstein theorized that there could be black holes that could swallow stars. 2,000 years before Einstein theorized this, Jesus said, well, in the end days, stars are going to fall out of the sky. How can a star fall out of the sky? Well, it gets swallowed by a black hole. We see it. We see stars falling into black holes. Gone. So, and what these guys don't understand, and even Christians don't even begin to understand this stuff, is that Jesus is this intelligence that when he speaks things, it's so far over. It seems simple, but it's so far over everyone's head that they don't get it. It's so far over their head. See, I've had God speak to me in an audible voice twice. The first time I was playing in a tennis tournament, and I finally made the finals of a tennis tournament. I used to pray and drive God crazy about winning a tennis tournament or being a tennis pro. So he speaks to me in an audible voice the first time. He's only done it twice in an audible voice. But he says to me, he says, literally speaks in an audible voice that I could hear, and he says, take one point at a time. And it took me, so I ended up doing that, and I ended up winning the tennis tournament. But it took me 40 years before I understand my own mind and why he would speak such a thing. Because it took me 40 years of understanding the mind to conceive, and he spoke to me again in another audible voice, and it took me 40 years for my intelligence level, and you're talking about a man whose lifespan is so short. I mean, my dad lived 70 years old. I mean, we're talking about a blink, you're here and you're gone, just boom. It's just like these cicadas that were here, they came this year and they're just about gone already. They're here and they're gone. 70 years of a lifetime, like I'm 62, and it's just a blink and you are gone. You're gone. That's what these people don't understand. They don't understand that. Because when you're younger, you feel immortal. And in a sense, you are. But once you reach a certain threshold, you start realizing immortality is almost gone. As your body ages, like my body's, I got all these bumps and crap growing out on me, and from sun exposure in my 20s and 30s. And the DNA in your body just doesn't repair itself anymore. It's only a matter of time before the cancer, you get cancer and you die. I could be dead any time, That's just the way it is. Immortality is gone. It's gone. But you don't realize that stuff till you get about my age, and everybody and all these people start dropping like flies. I was the same year as Michael Jackson. He's gone. Gone. Prince, gone. Farrah Fawcett, gone. You start looking at these on YouTube. You look at these celebrities, these famous celebrities in the grave, and you're like, oh, all these people are dead. It's like everyone's dead. It's like it's a total. And I hate to depress y'all, but that's the way it is. That's reality. Gone, just like that. Gone. Now they don't seem gone to me. Like we sit there and we look at people like in our heads, it's like they're not gone. Like I guess you couldn't see what I was recording there, but you look at people. We think of people, but they're gone. Like this guy right here. To us, he's still alive, but no, he's gone. He's gone. The guy's gone. Most of the people we know are gone. Anyway, I don't want to get too heavy and all that. The reason I made this video is to record what DMT is actually doing in the brain. But the thing I wanted to point out to these guys is one of the reasons they're doing this DMT stuff is because they want to censor. They want to sense things they can't sense. That's all it is. Hadron Collider is a sensor. So DMT is a sensor, and they're able to sense other things that they weren't able to sense before. And the only problem I have with it is they're entering into a realm because they're entering into a realm that they don't understand that there's 1/3 of the angels are demonic. That's one thing these guys don't understand. And these are very intelligent beings. These are beings that have been around a long, long, long time. And we're like, these guys think they're so intelligent. Like this guy studied all this stuff. He thinks he's really intelligent. Like this guy right here. He thinks he's really intelligent. And he does seem like he's pretty smart. He's studied a lot of stuff. He's got a good memory. But what they don't understand is these entities have been around a long, long time. And people like him are like child's play. And I'm not saying he's involved in what stuff like Joe Rogan and all these other people are involved in. But the power of, they're entering into their realm, and these entities are way more intelligent. They've been around forever. So they're entering into this realm by using the sensor of this drug. And so let me explain what DMT is really, why it's in the brain. And I have no education on any of this stuff. The one thing I've studied is the is Christianity on my own. I don't like to be taught by other people. So I've studied on my own, and I've studied the brain for about 10 years. So let me explain to what I think DMT does in the brain. So first of all, you have a thing called daydreaming, right? You'll see people that have like attention deficit disorder, which I've had severely. They daydream all the time. It's like living in a matrix. It's a very powerful matrix. But once you pull yourself out of it, then you realize the matrix you were in. So first of all, daydreaming is what people with a severe attention deficit disorder do. At least that's what I did. And wasn't even aware that I was that way. Just figured it out on my own. No therapy or none of this horse shit. But I don't know if it's horse shit. I've never listened to any of these people. I don't know. I don't know what they teach. I don't know what they know. I only know what I know. I don't know what these therapists and all this stuff that they do. But what is DMT really doing? Why would it be in the brain? Well, obviously, when you take it, it shifts you into, I think it's more than just a daydream state of consciousness. Because when you dream at night, you're in some people do a thing called lucid dreaming, right? So in a sense, I suppose you could compare this, taking this DMT to lucid dreaming, but it's not lucid dreaming. It's not lucid dreaming. Because you don't see the stuff that these guys see when they take the DMT. So it's not lucid dreaming. Because you don't dream about this stuff that they're having when you dream at night. But a certain level of DMT in your brain would make you dream, right? That's why I think it's there. Because you need it to dream at night, right? And you're in a state of consciousness where you think it's real, but you're not lucid dreaming. So that's why DMT would be there. So they're excited that they found DMT in the brain, but that would be its function. Now, if you increase the crazy levels of DMT in the brain, well, yeah, you're gonna shift consciousness, and it's gonna be like a lucid dream. But I think there's more to it than that, because I've listened to some stories about people that's taken some of this DMT, and they're actually seeing entities. Now, you don't see entities in regular dreaming, which is natural. Now, God does speak to people in dreams. And I think Satan can too. But these guys don't know anything about that kind of stuff. They don't know about this stuff. But anyway, the thing that made me think that, and I need to study it more. So obviously DMT, if you're looking for an obvious reason that DMT is in the brain, well, it's there because you dream. It makes you dream at night. But that's at a level where it would kick in and make you dream at night. That's a natural state. But when you're awake, if you get these high levels of DMT that they give the person, even though you have receptors for it, then that would kick you into dreaming while you're still awake, which I suppose you could almost say is lucid dreaming. But I personally believe that it's more than that, because there's entities, and they don't know these. They have no clue of these entities. I know about these entities because I've had encounters with them in my life. I know how they work. I know their methods. I know. See, there's so many things these people don't understand. And even Christians don't begin to understand. And I don't have time to get into all that. But the thing that Joe Rogan said that caught my attention is you can always tell the difference between a regular dream and a spiritual type dream, because I've only had one vision in my life, and then these guys probably think it's because of DMT, but that's what they would think. But I didn't get any DMT, and my brain's not gonna kick in levels of DMT that, I mean, that's what they would think. They would think my brain somehow kicked in a level of DMT and made me had this vision. But that's not why it happened. Anybody that has half a brain that lived my experience would know, but they'd have to live my life and my experience to know. But what happened to me is I didn't even know what a vision. I was a young Christian, didn't even know what a vision was. It never caught my attention in the Bible. So what happened is I encountered the Full Business Men International, which is a very spiritual Christianity that spoke in tongues and all these things. When I saw these people, I thought, these are some real Christians. And I must have been 19 years old. And they didn't ask me for any money or anything, but I sent these people, like, I think it was $500. They didn't ask for money. There was nothing about them that asked for any money. It was just on my own free will. I seen these people and I thought, I'm going to send them some money. And I wasn't expecting for anything in return. I didn't expect them to do anything for me. It's just I believed in these people and I wanted to support real Christianity, so I sent them $500. So these people prayed for me, and they never knew what happened, but these people must have prayed for me. So I had my first vision/dream, which gave me the revolution of the understanding of the mind that I have to this day. It gave me a spiritual gift, which is, like I said, nothing but a sensor. When you get born again, that's a sensor. So I have this dream, And I'm going down this road, and the thing that I noticed right away was different. I don't want to get into too many details about all this, but the thing I noticed different in this dream, everything was crystal clear, more real than real life. And that's what caught my attention on Joe Rogan. When Joe Rogan said that in the DMT experience was more real than real life, that caught my attention. Because I've only had, I think, a couple visions in my life from God, maybe 2 or 3. And that was what I noticed in this vision, that it was more real than real life. Like right now I'm looking around, compared to the way that what it was in this dream/vision, that was more real than real life. And I've heard people that have gone to heaven and had near-death experiences that they say when they go to heaven that it's more real than real life. I've heard just story after story after story of people that say in heaven there's 60 more shades of color, that the beauty of it just blows anything you can see on this earth away. So I've heard people, many and many encounters that talked about that. So when Joe Rogan said in one of his in a DMT encounter that it was more real than real life, that made me think that there was a spiritual element to this. And since he's not born again, I don't think it's a good spiritual element. Because you're going to let me explain how spiritual things work. Spiritual things are like an atmosphere. If I'm going to enter, if on the earth we have rain, we have desert, and it is what it is. So if you're not born again, you're going to be in a certain spiritual plane or atmosphere, because you are where you are. And that's not really making a whole, I guess I can't really lock this down, but it is what it is. God said to Adam, he says, "Where art thou?" Because see, in Genesis, they actually shifted. They actually shifted from one spiritual plane to another spiritual plane. And these are things that even Christians don't know. And let me just talk about that one. I'm trying to cover too much. I'm 62 years old, and I'm trying to give you 50 some years of information in a 30-minute video. It just can't be done. I can't impute to you guys 50 years of information in a video. I can give you little bits and pieces, but anyway, 40 years ago, I was praying and time slowed down. I know this sounds crazy to you guys. And I thought, well, I rationalized. I thought, well, that's just what maybe that's just what you feel when you really get in a powerful place with God. Time just slows down. Maybe that's just a normal, because I was in a deeper connective place to God, and I thought, well, maybe that's just what you feel when you get deeply connected and you're praying to God and you're very connected. And Jesus even talks about that. He says, if you abide in me, if you don't abide in me, you can do nothing. That means these people that do these healings, there's millions of verifiable healings out there, millions of them. Well, not millions, but there's so many verifiable feelings that you can't doubt it because it has seriously happened. Now you can sit there and not educate yourself and sit back and say, oh no, this ain't real. But if you do your research, you'll find out that it is 100% verifiable. And the only reason you don't believe that is because you don't give a damn enough to actually go down that rabbit hole and investigate it. But I've had my own healing, so that's enough for me by itself. So anyway, time slowed down, and I thought, well, man, that's just something you feel when you pray. So I'm with a guy who's not a Christian. I liked the connection of what it was to God. So I was praying in the passenger seat of a car, and I felt time slow down. And it was really powerful, and I could feel it slowing down. I mean, time was just slowing down. And I'm praying, and the guy driving, my friend who was driving, named Ralph, he doesn't know I'm praying. But what he feels is time slowing down. And in a panic, the guy looks over at me. We're talking about two individuals who never took a drug in their entire life. And Ralph is a very logical, sharp, mentally sharp individual. Very successful, sharp, mentally individual. He never took any drugs. I never took any drugs. So I'm praying. He has no clue what's going on. Time slows down powerfully. And he looks over at me in a panic, and he feels it, and he knows what's going on. He's like, what's going on? I mean, he just looks over, and he's panicked, and he's like, time is slowing down. He's freaking out. I didn't really know that time was slowing down. I just thought it's just something you felt when you pray. But when he said that, I knew that time, looking back at it 40 years later, I know that time was actually slowing down. Now, why would that happen? It's not too complicated to figure out. God wanted to show me. So as soon as I stopped praying, as soon as I looked over at him, disengaged praying, looked over at the guy, and disengaged praying, time resumed. And he felt it. I could see the look on his face. Time resumed. I felt time resume. He felt it. And as I felt it, he felt the same thing. He had a stupid look on his face, like he was embarrassed because he said such a thing. Because time resumed, and then I looked at him like he was crazy because I didn't want him to know that I was praying. So time resumed, and he just thought he was imagining things. But I knew that he wasn't imagining things. I knew that I knew that, it took really 40 years as I thought about it, why that happened. Hearing all these near-death experiences, people that say there's no time. I kept hearing that time and time again. People that go to heaven, they said, well, there's no time here. There's no time. This thing called time doesn't exist. And of course, Albert Einstein theorized and said that we live he actually proved pretty much that we live in a fabric of space and time. And then you see these people, a lot of them go through these dark tunnels, which is like a dimensional shift. They're shifting out of a dimension, and they're leaving space and this dimension of space and time. And of course, when you leave a dimension of space and time, well, that time don't exist. It's pretty simple. So what God showed me, what I believe that God was showing me, that Adam and Eve, you see, why would you have two separate creation stories in the Bible? You've got the one where it says, be fruitful and multiply. Then you see another story about mankind, and they're not having any babies at all. But they're in the garden. But the people that are not in the garden, he's saying, be fruitful and multiply. So what happens is the ones that were, I believe, in no time, because they were connected to God in his kingdom. Of course, the first thing that Jesus says when he comes here is he says, the kingdom of God has come unto you. So they were connected to the kingdom of God, which there is no time, just like I was when I was praying, and time slowed down. So they were connected to this. And so when they disconnected, that's when time resumed for them. You won't find no fossil record of Adam and Eve because they didn't die. They didn't die because number one, they didn't live in time. There wasn't time for them. And see, God hides all these mysteries. It wasn't an accident that happened. And going back to one of my 3 visions, which I've had, I don't want to talk. I guess I'm not going to talk too much about that one, because I just don't have time. But the thing I noticed in the vision was, it actually started out as a dream, and then when I woke up, I could still, for 15 seconds, still see this road that I was going down in this car in this vision. And there's a whole it took me 40 years to understand what this vision meant, which also gave me the understanding of things that I have about the mind. Because see, I don't have time to get into all this. But the thing I want to explain to you guys is that the DMT is naturally there to help you dream, which is a natural process that people do. And what are the functions of dreams? It's kind of to work out stuff. Your dreams, it's almost like your dreams almost work out, like some people are passive aggressive. In a dream, you can kind of work out some of those things. It's kind of like a decompression, like people that come up from water, if they come up too fast, they have to decompress. That's kind of what the function, I think, of dreams are. It's just to decompress the crap that happens to you during the day. To kind of decompress, that's one function. I don't want to sit there and try to figure out all the purpose of what dreams are for, but there's a purpose, of course. And in the Bible, God can enter into people's dreams. He did it on time and time again. You'll see in the Bible, he can enter into that state of consciousness. And it's a preferred method of people that aren't real deep in Christianity for him to enter into that. And I know you guys don't understand any of this stuff because it took me 40 or 50 years to understand this stuff. But see, God deliberately doesn't reveal himself. And you guys aren't going to understand this because you don't have 50 years of revelation from God, of God giving you bits and pieces of information. And let me even explain to you what revelation is. Revelation is instant understanding. You didn't understand something 1 second, and then the next second you do. That's what revelation is. Like, for example, people that have near-death experience, they'll have instant understanding of things. They enter a realm, and then all of a sudden they instantly understand. It's just like the guy that instantly understood that time was slowing down. No one had to explain it to him. It was instant revelation. He knew that time was slowing down. That's how it works. And God gave me instant revelation because I asked him, and I said, there was a scripture in the Bible where God said he wasn't going to forgive the children of Israel when they sinned and they built the golden calf. And I couldn't understand that. I thought, well, I thought God always forgives sins. So what God showed me is that because of their revelation, because see, the angels never got forgiveness of sins. And what's the difference between angels and man? It's the revelation. The angels had revelation of God that went 1,000 times deeper than what man had. So that's one of the reasons God stopped talking. He doesn't talk to man like he used to. It's because if you continue to sin, there's going to be a judgment. And God doesn't want to judge. If you continue to go against God's sin, there's a judgment. And that's what happened to the children of Israel when they came out of Egypt. there was a revelation that was even greater than Jesus' day. Now, it wasn't greater than the 12 that followed him and saw the revelation. They followed him and they saw the revelation. And there was some revelation, but most of the faith came by hearing. The Bible says faith comes by hearing. You hear something, you don't see it. But the disciples, they saw things. They saw it. So when they came out of Egypt, there was a revelation that was so powerful of the reality of God and the authority and the power and them delivering them out of Egypt, that when they finally continued to sin, they had so much revelation, he had to judge them like an angel. And he said, there's no more forgiveness of sins. And I couldn't understand that. But God instantly gave me the understanding of that. And you guys are playing around with spirituality with this DMT stuff, but you're not going to really encounter God unless you get born again. And if you get born again, there's a level of spirituality that is going to be a pale comparison to what you're getting off on this DMT stuff. I mean, because you guys are getting off on this DMT stuff on a psychological curiosity type level. But if you want to play around with the real Christianity, I guarantee you this is like not the real thing. This is just something to feed your spiritual desires and your curiosity, but it's nothing compared to the real thing. And I haven't went very deep with this stuff either, and I plan on going deep to it. But I've had revelation where you guys haven't. I've had time slow down. I've had God speak to me in audible voice twice. I've even seen Jesus in a vision once. And then I'm not verifying that this is true, but I've seen Jesus in a vision about 40 years ago. That was my second vision. And I didn't know anything about the Shroud of Turin until 30 or 40 years later. And when I saw the Shroud of Turin, I thought, when I saw my vision of Jesus, I thought, there he is. That's the first image that I ever saw that looked like Jesus from the vision in which I saw him. I said, there it is. Finally, someone got it right. That's what Jesus looked like. Now, I'm not even saying that the Shroud of Turin is real. Now, there was a Jewish guy that was a non-believer in Jesus that was put on the investigative team to determine, I think he was a specialist of X-ray technician and all this other stuff. I forget what the guy was, but he was put on the team of to determine whether this thing was real or not. And when he was done with it, and he was a Jew, he did not want to believe that this thing was real, but when he was done investigating, he became a believer in Christ. Now that kind of speaks to the validity of it, but I'm not even by his witness, I'm not saying that that's real. The only thing I know for a fact is when I saw that vision 40 years ago of Jesus, and I see all these people painting all these stupid paintings of Jesus, all these stupid paintings, the only one that I ever saw that looked like the vision in which I saw Jesus was the Shroud of Turin. That's it. There's been no other. Even this chick that drew this image of Jesus, there was a chick that she never saw his face, because if she saw it, she could have drew it. What's her name's? She's a famous artist that Jesus revealed herself to him and gave her the gift of art. Her name's I can never pronounce her name. Arkiana or something or other. She's a famous artist that got a gift when she was like 3 or 4 years old of drawing. She's pretty famous. But she tried to draw a picture of Jesus, and that don't look like him to me. Now I can see that kind of similarities when you compare the two. but she didn't actually see him. Some guy, I guess God showed some guy that was kind of similar to look like Jesus, sent him to her house, and she drew a picture of this guy, but that wasn't Jesus. That was some guy that God sent to her house. Now, it was somewhat similar to Jesus, but not. It wasn't it. The only one that looks like Jesus is the Shroud of Turin. But anyway, to explain to you what DMT is doing naturally in the brain is it's giving you the ability to dream. That's a trip. Dreaming is a trip. You're tripping at night. Now, if you take enough DMT, which is unnatural, you're going to trip while you're awake. And that's the simple explanation of why DMT is in the brain. And I've been studying the mind for 10 years, so it was very simple, very easy for me to figure that one out. Anyway, done with this video for now.